Good evening. We'll call the meeting to order. This is the February 11th meeting of the Spencer East Brookfield Regional School District. Before we get started tonight, just as a public announcement, the meeting tonight will be taped by Spencer Cable Access. It will appear on our cable TV stations in Spencer and East Brookfield, as well as YouTube. The meeting may also be being taped by the Worcester Telegram Gazette and/or the Spencer New Leader. So if you come to the mic, you very well may see yourself on TV. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you'd remain standing for a second, please. This past week, one of our students here, David Prouty, Dan Martin, was in a severe snowmobile accident in Maine and is in critical condition. And I just ask for a moment of prayer for him and his family, please. Thank you. In light of that announcement, I would just like to appeal to the public in an attempt to try to help Dan and his family. Dan was an outstanding football player here at David Prouty and led the team to a state championship. Also played football and basketball and was just one of those guys that was a terrific help to all students and stuff. And he and his family need our help at this point. And Mike Lucia, another Prouty graduate and the president of Webster First Federal Credit Union, has established a fund to help aid in the medical bills that Dan is going to be confronted with. If it moves you to do so, you can make a contribution to any one of the Webster First Federal Credit Union branches. You can do it at Drive Up. All of the tellers are aware of the fund. Just give your name and your contribution, and the family will be notified accordingly. Or if you wish to mail a donation, you can mail it to Webster First Federal Credit Union, 271 Greenwood Street, Worcester, Mass. 01607. Attention, Mike Lucia. And we thank you ahead of time for any of the support that you can give to Dan and his family. The first item on the agenda tonight will be the introduction of the new school committee members. The East Brookfield Board of Selectmen and the East Brookfield representative, Mary Gershman, met, and they appointed Heather Messier from East Brookfield as the new person on the school committee. Heather is a special ed teacher in East Brookfield, in Leicester, and has a nice young family and is willing to come and be of service. So I'd like to give a warm welcome to Heather and let her say a few words. Would you like to say anything, Heather? Or?
Thank you. I'm very proud to serve my town in this capacity, and I hope to be someone who contributes positively to this board.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is student reports. High school in Knox Trail. If you come to the mic.
Hello, my name is Magdalene Paul, and I am the president of the National Junior Honor Society at Knox Trail.
Hi, I'm William Demarsky, and I am part of the National Junior Honor Society at Knox Trail.
The winter map testing has been completed at our school. Baypath came to Knox Trail today to interview 47 applicants. 25 additional students have already been selected through the early acceptance process. On Friday, March 7th, Knox Trail will hold a family fun night. There will be a students and faculty basketball game and pizza. Additional information will be sent home. Thanks to our very successful magazine drive, Knox Trail was able to purchase one new smartboard and install 4 others that were designated due to the closing of Maple Street. We also purchased a new sound system. A very special thanks to all the parents that purchased magazines for a very good cause.
On January 18th, we participated in Project 351. 351 was started 4 years ago by Governor Deval Patrick. On January 18th, 351 8th grade students from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts participated in a day of service around the Boston area. Project 351 helped us gain leadership skills for the future. In the near future, we will be starting a project called Spring Greening in our community, and we ask that students and their families donate gently used clothing, shoes, books, and other school supplies to the district schools to be donated to Cradles to Crayons. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello and good evening. My name is Alicia Fagarski and I'm a grade 9 student at Prouty. First of all, I would like to say welcome Mrs. Messier to the school committee board.
Thank you.
And all of us here at Prouty would like to send our thoughts and prayers to Danny Martin and his family. This evening's student report will focus on a new nutritional program at our school called Second Chance Breakfast. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education is challenging Massachusetts school districts to increase school breakfast participation. School districts that increase student average daily participation in their school breakfast program by a minimum 35% between January 2013 and December 2014 will be recognized for their accomplishments. As you know, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and there is plenty of data that shows students who eat breakfast perform better in school. With that, Prouty has started our program, Second Chance Breakfast. After our Block 1 class, students can access a breakfast at a kiosk located in the academic wing and is hosted by our cafeteria staff. This lets all students have a second chance at breakfast. The numbers have proven that this is quite a hit. We have increased the numbers of students eating breakfast by over 600%. On January 6th, only 11 students participated in breakfast. On January 28th, with Second Chance Breakfast, the number soared to 65. Our biggest increases were among those students who received free or reduced meals. Breakfast is still available in the morning, and the students are doing a great job in cleaning up after themselves. Thank you. Remember to start your day with a healthy breakfast.
Thank you. Next item on the report is Teacher Association reports. Mr. James, you have anything?
Nothing to report.
Nothing? Oh, all right, thank you. Hearing for visitors. Anybody want to be heard?
Good evening. Bob Serba, 23 Summer Street. Ms. Messier, welcome to the board.
Thank you.
As you may recall, back in September 2013, we were going through a very, very divisive time. We were trying to get an override passed. 2 overrides had gone through and not passed. And in September, like first part of October, there was a letter was sent out to all school committee members and all select board members. And the gist of it was basically, and I'll just read this very briefly. On the first day of school following Labor Day, I learned the following in the teacher's break room at Prouty High. The school administration and certain department heads within the school have been defrauding the taxpayers of both your communities for over 30 years. This was done systematically, overpaying the majority of the big vendors to the tune of $800,000 per year. Now, it goes on and it's explained more in detail, but I really don't need to go into that. Now, here's the kicker. A week before the meeting came out, Dr. Malvey released $833,000. Now, my question would be, was this fiscal mismanagement, since we'd already gone through 2 overrides, 2 failed overrides? And we had a community that was totally divided as to what we were going to do. There was no information being given. There was no Spencer Cable Access shows trying to promote an override. And $833,000 got released. So I'm curious, was this fiscal mismanagement, or was this possibly this letter? Second question I have for you folks is at the last meeting where 4 members showed up, because 2 of the members were sick and 1 of the members was removed from the board, the question came up about, the question should have come up about a superintendent search. I'm going to read directly from the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education letter. In it, it states, a district deemed to have a critical shortage of certified teachers for the purpose of GLC 32, Section 91E, may employ retired teachers subject to all laws, rules, and regulations governing the employment of teachers. The period of determination of a critical shortage shall not exceed 1 year. In order to continue this provision beyond June 30th, 2014, your district must once again demonstrate a good faith effort to hire personnel who have not retired. And my second question would be, how does this not looking for a new superintendent benefit this district and moving this district forward? I'm really curious to hear the answer to that. Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else who would like to be recognized? Okay, seeing none at this time, I'll recognize Dr. Malvey for a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. It gives me a good deal of pleasure to recognize two of our top students at David Prouty High School. Before I do that, though, I want to let you know that for many, many years, the superintendents throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, in their respective areas throughout the state, join together and recognize talented students at their school districts. It can go from high school down to elementary school, although most choose to recognize high school students so that they can put that on their paperwork as they apply for college. I'm pleased to announce that we have two youngsters, sisters, Ashley White and Chelsea White, and I would ask the young ladies to come down to the speaker for a moment. And both Ashley and Chelsea, if you look closely, they're twins. Typically, school districts are only allowed one student per school because of the massive numbers that we have in the Worcester County. But because these young ladies are so close in not only their personal lives, but their academic performance within a slice on their GPAs, and I'll leave that out for right now, but very, very close, that we felt that it would be a disservice not to have both of our youngsters attend the program. So it's with a good deal of pride that both Ashley and Chelsea were recognized at a recent Worcester County Superintendent Association Scholar Luncheon that was held January 9 at Assumption College. There were well over 70 students and over 50 schools throughout the region that were represented. I and Mr. O'Brien, principal of the high school, also attended, and I can't tell you that we were not so proud of these two youngsters, given the backgrounds of all the students that were there. We rank right up with them, and it's to their credits. So I want to recognize them here publicly. I do have a little plaque that was made up at the high school for you that I want to give to you. And then I'm going to ask the young ladies just to give a little snapshot of what they've accomplished here. But I did find the write-up, girls, so I'll give that to you, and you can go along with that. But please congratulate these young ladies. Okay. If you want, you can just kind of use this as a reminder, okay? And then I'll pick them up so I can keep in your file here too, okay?
Doctor.
Okay, very good.
My name is Chelsea White.
My name is Ashley White.
We're seniors at David Prouty. We're part of the National Honor Society, where we've been captains of both the soccer and track team. We were recipients of the White Sweater Award. We're part of the Foreign Culture Club. I was a recipient of the Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute Medal Award, and Ash was a recipient of the Harvard Book Award. We've been accepted to WPI, which is our top school, so we plan on attending there next year. And we are very honored to receive this award, and we're very grateful that they were able to get both of us. So, thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Malvey. The next item on the agenda is Secretary's Report, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on January 9th, 2014. Does anybody have any questions on those? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So voted. The next item is approve and retain the minutes of the executive sessions of January 9th, 2014. Any questions? If not, a motion to approve.
Motion approved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made, seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, so voted. The next item on the agenda is the financial report, approval of the expenditure report of January 31st, 2014. Members have any questions in regards to the expenditure report?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Nordquist?
Yes, I have a question on page 2. It's 1110. School committee, this is to Julie, I guess. 186,780. What is that for, Julie? See, we had a transfer of 38,000.
Can you repeat that?
Pardon me?
Would you repeat it, please, Kurt?
Excuse me. On page 2, under the budget there, under 111.
Okay, I got it now. That was because we had the agreement that was part of the contingency. So we had the $120,000 we had to put in contingency, and it was agreed upon with the union that we would settle it, some of those
Okay.
issues. So
I know
that's
what-
where the
I know
money
what-
came from, was from the $120,000 of the contingency.
I know what you're saying
And
now.
then was put into the correct accounts.
Okay, thank you. I know what you're saying.
Okay, thank you.
Second thing, Mr. Chairman, on page 11 of the expenditure report, take that back, I think it's, excuse me for a second. On page 10, I'm sorry, it says East Brookfield, if electrical, was it page 10? No, I'm sorry, again, it's on page 9. Down the third from the bottom, Wire Village Electric, 110,000. I think Mr. Clutie has brought this up before, of the expenses, and I think Dr. Melvy's going to check into it. Have you gone, check that in, Dr. Melvy? Or what's the status on that?
Yes, let me just say briefly, and then Julie can pick it up. We did contact the electric company. They came out and did a review, but it was more of, trying to retrofit the building rather than deal with the issue we thought it was relative to meters and whether they were properly phased, et cetera. So Julie's doing some additional work on that, but I'll let her comment on it.
Yeah, at this point, they came back just this week from doing what they did before, but really, they were trying to basically sell us a retrofit of the lights, so we really need to find someone else, and that's who National Grid had said to go through for the energy audit, but it wasn't complete, and it didn't get into the bigger issues, which is what we think really needs to be done.
So this is ongoing with National Grid?
Still a work in progress.
Okay, because from what I understand, this new school here, when it was built, it was kind of a green energy. So I would think they'd be one step ahead of everybody else in the district. So
We'll keep at it.
You'll give us a report when you,
Absolutely,
thank you.
absolutely.
Any others, Kurt?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone else with any questions on the expenditure report? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Approved, Mr. Chairman, as read.
Motion approved by Mr. Nordquist. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Clutie. Are all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So voted. Under unfinished business, before we get to item A, I'm going to give Dr. Melvy an opportunity. I was a little too quick going on the agenda to respond to citizen service question. Is he still here? Oh, okay. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for a point of clarification, because I don't know how many people know the issues or understand the issues, but with respect to the gentleman's concern on a letter that went out somewhere in the fall and $833,000 that I've was claimed to have moved or found. First of all, let's set the facts straight. The letter that is being referred to was an anonymous letter. No one in their right mind is going to respond to an anonymous letter. It's not typically factually based, and there's no way to open up dialogue for clarification of whatever the contents of the letter are. Be that as it may, the issue that was raised, and has been raised in previous occasions, if you will, something to do with $833,000 that has not been identified to me. So I don't know what the individual is talking about with respect to $833,000. There was no money found anywhere. To the contrary, as you probably all well know, because you've been living it longer than I when I came in on July 1, that most money, if not all money, was drained out of accounts because of mismanagement of a previous superintendent. That's on the record. When I came into the district, I inherited a financial mess, as Julie Supernant did, the business manager, and we've worked very, very hard in conjunction with the school committee, the staff and administration in the school district and the public officials to try to turn this place around, and I think we're making progress. But through a series of budget iterations, as you well know, that budget after budget was either approved at the school committee level and in some instances got approved, excuse me, at the town level, but then was defeated with override votes that eventually ended up with the Commissioner of Education stepping in and setting the final budget figure in December, of which the parties at the local level still had to approve, the school committee and then the respective towns, East Brookfield and Spencer. But throughout all those budget iterations, we were required to go back and make further reductions. So maybe somewhere along the line on one of those iterations, there was $800,000 that were reduced. But cumulatively, I believe there was upwards of $1 to $2 million that had to be reduced to get to the operating budget that was set by the Commissioner of Education. But what has been alluded to is that I or others either had money that we were hiding, and I take issue with that if that's the innuendo that's being put out there, because nothing was hidden. No money was found in accounts. No bank accounts were kept out of the eyesight of either central office and or the school committee in particular. So I'm going to take very strong issue with that is what some people are being led to believe out there, and nothing could be further from the truth. What is true is that through the entire budget process, we made some serious reductions at the detriment of education for the children in this district. And as we go forward this evening with the FY15 budget, we'll be in a similar position, although not as drastic as what we all faced going back to the springtime of last year. So this notion of we found money is just a fallacy. What we did was cut out money from the budget that eventually impacted the quality of education we provide to students here. The second issue with respect to superintendent search and whether the district can continue with the services of an interim superintendent such as I've answered that in other forums, and I'll be happy to address that this evening. First of all, the school committee has every legal right, if they so choose, to pursue a second-year waiver from the Commissioner of Education. It happens frequently in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and in many instances, it goes to a 2- or a 3-year waiver. And it's all permissible within the law, so the school committee is not breaking any statute. They cannot grant the waiver, but based on the last meeting, the decision unanimously of those that were in attendance at this school committee meeting, the committee felt that they would be in a better position to seek a second-year waiver for the interim superintendent, and I believe it's for the purpose of stability, continuity, given the progress we're making. And I think you're going to see a little more of that this evening when the representatives from the State Department of Education speak to the curriculum issue. And then at the end of the month, we're bringing forward the financial overseer that we have to have because of our financial situation, and he will speak to the progress we've made on the financial end. So the school committee is only doing that which is permissible within the law, and I believe they're in the process of putting a request together that eventually the commissioner and his people will have to make a determination. It is not a guarantee. There is a requirement that the committee, or all committees, if you will, should be taking steps for a search, but for other compelling reasons, that doesn't always happen as smoothly as one might think. And that's what the committee is attempting to do as they go forward. Now, if in the judgment of the committee as they go forward, they think that that's not the best decision and that they would like to move forward, as long as I'm the interim superintendent here, I will do everything within my power and professional responsibility to assist this community and this committee and these two communities to have a successful search and ultimately end up with a candidate that everyone is quite comfortable with. So beyond that, I can't explain any reasoning. That would be up to the committee, but if they would like to continue with me, I'm in it for the long haul, so to speak, and I hope we can continue to make progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Malby. The next item on the agenda under unfinished business, the curriculum report, the DSAC update.
Terrific. Thank you very much. So with no further ado, I'm pleased to introduce the folks from the Department of Education, and I'll do it in this order and then ask Ava to come forward to the podium first. But Ava Mitchell is the Associate Commissioner for Education, overseeing the District and School Accountability Center, and that really is the group that put together the report that now is public, and we have it on our website, and certainly the district and the school committee are struggling with the implications of that, but I believe we're making progress. Also with Ava is Dr. Magdalene Jaffoon. Mag is a retired superintendent of many years in the Commonwealth. I was pleased to see her most recently come forward because there is life after the superintendency or the principalship or the teaching responsibilities for people that still have a lot to give. Mag and I go back many, many, many years, although she's a lot younger than I, and looks at, but we go back to when we were really cutting our teeth in central office, and we were colleagues as assistant superintendents and worked our way up, and Magdalene has had many successful terms as a superintendent in the Commonwealth. Also, we have Bruce McDonald. Bruce similarly is a retired educator of many years in the Commonwealth, but still has a lot of kick and has come back to work specifically with the Assistance Center, as Mag in her work is involved in the Assistance Center, of which we have reached out to partner with them. So we're pleased to have them here this evening, and Ava Mitchell will present a report to us. Ava, welcome aboard.
I want to thank you for that fabulous introduction, Dr. Malby. We were pleased to have the opportunity at the Department of Education's Accountability Office to work with you again. Dr. Malby also worked with us when we had a review in his last district, and I promised him that we are not looking to follow him to every district to conduct a review, but here we are tonight.
Excuse us just one second. We're going to sit down there so we're not blocking.
So we're not blocking your way here, Ava? Is that okay?
Right. Very good. Am I loud enough? Okay, good. So I'm going to start off with a little overview about the review that we conducted in the second week of June 2013. The purpose of this presentation is to give you an overview of our report and give you a little background about what we found and what we recommended and why. Before I begin, I would be remiss not to give an incredible amount of appreciation to all of you here, particularly starting with the superintendent and the school committee who welcomed us to make this presentation tonight. Not all school committees and superintendents welcome us to come back and deliver the report to their public. That definitely shows a spirit of transparency and wanting to get things right. We also found a great degree of welcome by the community and the stakeholders here in Spencer East Brookfield. The teachers, the central office administrators, principals, the teacher union leadership all came with a desire to tell the story of Spencer East Brookfield and really look to how can we continue improving our efforts to make teaching and learning even better in the public schools. So as a reminder for some of you, and as news for others, the purpose of our district review is only to provide an objective analysis from an external perspective of how district systems are operating, and to provide some suggestions for your ongoing improvement efforts. It is not a report that results in some kind of compliance requirement. It's not like a program, a comprehensive program review where we are looking to evaluate the district with respect to certain legal standards and say you have to fix them within a year. That's not why we do this. This is also not a review that leads to an accreditation or a de-accreditation. However, we employ a number of really experienced individuals like Dr. Jaffoon, the former superintendent introduced by Dr. Malvey, and other retired or semi-retired principals, CFOs, superintendents that can spend 10 full days doing a complete diagnostic of a district and following a protocol that we've been using for the past now 5 years and being refined over time, come up with the key priorities for district improvement. And then we share them as information for the leadership to decide how to best move forward. So the review entailed a whole lot. So the part of the review that you saw from your perspective was a site visit, June 10th through the 12th. And it included about 30 hours of interviews, 42 stakeholders, and a total of 28 classroom observations. And we had a chance to speak to everyone from municipal officials to teachers and students. The team also reviewed a range of data and documents that were both in-house at the department and also provided to us by the leadership. And thank you for those of you that put some of that together. And this review lasted before and after the on-site visit. So the report focuses on the 6 district systems that we call standards in our process, and behind each standard is a detailed definition of what this system looks like when it is working optimally. And this is how the review report is organized around the system, the first system of leadership and governance, everything from school committee governance to school and district leadership. Our second standard is curriculum and instruction. Assessment and program evaluation is the third. Human resources and professional development is the other area we look at. The area of student support, this is both academic and non-academic supports for children. And the last standard is financial and asset management. So our theory of action in reviewing these functions that take place primarily at a district level in terms of establishing the direction is that we believe that these are the systems based on the research that we have used to put together these standards and indicators that create the conditions for effective schools. So as I mentioned earlier, the purpose of the review is to be used as advisory to the leadership here. And we want to just make 2 little notes that's important. So one is that the leadership team, the interim superintendent and members of the leadership team didn't wait until we delivered our report before they started taking action. And in fact, Dr. Malvey, we began engaging as soon as he came on board, or I should probably say he began engaging with us as well. And the other thing that you should know is that this review should be placed in context of what the district is already doing. So this is a report that goes to June 2013. When we talk about the findings and the recommendations, we'll have a chance to bring Bruce McDonald up here to go into a little bit more depth about what's happened since the time of the site visit. The other thing that's important to note is that the department has partnered with Spencer East Brookfield because of the superintendent's invitation, and in several ways. So one way is the ongoing partnership that the superintendent has established with the district and school assistance centers, and the other was we delved into this report together as a team. We had a meeting where we looked at the report versus the draft accelerated improvement plan that the district has started putting in place after the review. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I think it's important to note that as we go into some of the detail of the report. The report has 17 findings with both strengths and challenges. We do emphasize deliberately the challenges that a district is facing. I start off every meeting like that because we tell our teams that the purpose is to promote a cycle of improvement. So they're going out looking for the things that the district needs to address. And we recognize a few strengths at the beginning, but our purpose is to look to push you further. And we have 12 recommendations in the report that are designed to address the findings. So let's start with the strengths. I assume that the school committee has gotten a chance to read the report, and this is really an overview. This is going to be a 50,000-foot overview. So the first area of strength was, frankly, that during multiple interviews with school committee members, teachers, and administrators, it was very clear to the review team that the district is made up of people who were very aware of the conditions of the school district and also very eager to embrace whatever changes necessary to improve teaching and learning. That's what we heard from everyone that the team talked to. We also saw that there were many teachers and administrators that sort of, if you will, put their money where their mouth is. So for example, the review team learned about groups of teachers that volunteer their personal time for uncompensated activities designed to help students. That kind of eagerness to embrace district improvement sets a good foundation for the work that we're going to talk about coming up. Another area of strength was the use of assessments. For the first one is the measures of academic progress. That was used consistently throughout schools K through 8. And the other, the dynamic indicators, I always get the acronym mixed up here, the DIBBLES, which we commonly call it, so reading assessment, that was used consistently K through 3. Now, although the frequency wasn't of the assessments wasn't administered quite enough, it was just 2 to 3 times a year, to have the kind of dramatic impact that you want to see in an ongoing way for teachers to adjust instruction. The fact that these assessments were used in a consistent way throughout schools was certainly a strength here. Another strength that the review team noted was that in the area of human resource and professional development, that despite leadership changes and some changes to approaches with respect to the budget, that the mentoring program for first-year teachers has remained. And that was something that the team thought was critical. The strength under financial and asset management, I don't know if you can see that clearly there, was that there were several district employees that took steps to aggressively expose and deal with the financial mismanagement that happened here. That took some personal risk, and that is to be commended, even though they weren't able to prevent a large deficit being incurred the next year. And those are the kinds of things that should give the district a starting confidence that Spencer East Brookfield does have what it takes, while at the same time, there are also some critical challenges that need to be addressed. I won't go over the challenges that were noted in the findings of the report. You can read about them in the report if you'd like. The challenges that were identified in the review were addressed through the recommendations. So rather than go through each one of these, we're going to go right to the recommendations. And at this time, I'd like to call up my colleague from the assistant side of the House, Bruce McDonald, who is going to join me to help us talk about how the leadership team has started to move ahead to address some of these challenges since the review has taken place. So now we're going to go to the area of recommendations. So I'm going to start with the two standards that sort of frame the conditions that allow teaching and learning to occur, and that's leadership and governance and the financial and asset management. So the first recommendation is that all school committee members should receive training or retraining to better understand their role and responsibilities. This includes setting goals and policy, including guidelines for the budget, and working to ensure that necessary funds are appropriated for the district. This is not an uncommon recommendation in a district review report, but it is a critical one, and one that we've found has become more and more critical because school districts are facing increasingly challenging times and increasingly a number of pressures. And certainly in Spencer East Brookfield, we found that to be the case. The second recommendation is that the school committee and the interim superintendent should examine and address the issue of turnover of central office and school level administrators. And the purpose of this is to the extent possible, establish a stable administrative team. The team learned about the effects that teachers in the schools felt about the instability and the direction, the lack of consistency, and desired to really know what their leadership was committed to over the long haul. The last recommendation under leadership and governance is that the interim superintendent should develop a vision for the future direction of the district and should oversee the collaborative development of a district improvement plan with SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, reasonable, and time-bound goals to achieve that vision. Similarly, the principals, with the assistance of their school councils, should develop school improvement plans with SMART goals that align with the goals in the district improvement plan. So this is an area that we know that the district has been working on with respect to their accelerated improvement plan. Bruce, do you want to speak?
Yeah, they began work on the
about that?
accelerated improvement plan last year under very difficult circumstances, which I'm sure you're all aware of. And that work was picked up this year, and I believe that they are progressing in terms of reworking that. The important thing here is that the district improvement plan has to come first. And that once that is in place, and you've identified what are those key objectives that you wish to address in an actionable plan, one that is certainly is going to work within the constraints of your resources, the next step is to have each of the schools in the district do the same thing. One of the things that we increasingly find in our work across many school districts is that that district improvement plan is key. Prior to having that, what we have found is that many schools operate as though they're independent of a district. They just happen to be within the same confines of the town, but it is that alignment that's critical. So it is critical that that district improvement plan get developed, and then that a plan that is in line with that meets the specific needs of each of the buildings in the district is then addressed as well.
Great. Under the area of financial and asset management, the team recommended that the district continue to develop and implement a plan to resolve its financial crisis. I imagine you are in the thick of that as we speak, working toward passing its own budget for fiscal year 2015, and work to build trust and improve relations among the district fiscal team, the school committee, and municipal leaders. Now, I should say that under each of these recommendations is a great deal of detail in terms of sort of specific actions to take. and also some resources that the department can bring to bear and the department recommends in order to address each one of these. So I won't go through all of that, but in the Q&A, if there are any specific questions, I'll certainly go over some of the specifics. There were 2 recommendations in the area of curriculum instruction. The first was that the district should establish a multi-year collaborative process to ensure consistent and effective development, review, alignment, and delivery of a curriculum. To do so, the district needs to have a district-wide leadership position with responsibility for the oversight of curriculum development and implementation. I believe everybody is well aware of the work that has been started to transition to the Common Core across the state. It's a considerable amount of work. We think that it is the very, very best work because now, instead of preparing students just to successfully graduate from high school, which was what the old curriculum frameworks aspired to, the Common Core curriculum standards bring our students to college and career readiness. They go deeper, there's more writing, there's more thinking, there's more analysis. And the work that it really takes, though, to get all teachers there, giving them the kinds of tools that they need, from everything from the curriculum maps to the resources and assessments that they can use to help all students move along, and also resources and assessments that can help them see when students aren't moving along what they can do. That's a considerable amount of work. So it does take a great deal of coordination. When the review team was here, they saw that there were a lot of efforts put in place by individuals, but there was a lot of alignment that was not happening, and it's because there wasn't someone centrally that had the time as well as and the expertise with an emphasis on the time to make it all happen. The second recommendation in this area, which ideally would also be under a leader with responsibility for curriculum and/or instruction, is to identify and adopt an instructional model. So when the team was here, they saw some really good pockets of excellent teaching, but they also saw that there wasn't a consistent understanding of what good teaching looks like. And that means that there's a lot of loss in learning and a lot of loss in a clear professional development direction focused on what's most important here for all teachers to do instructionally. And it also creates consistency for students when teachers share some common, really important, really effective research-based practice. So once there is the identification of instructional model and an adoption of one, then the steps would be to share the expectations with all the stakeholders, of course, teachers and principals, but also students, parents, and to create professional discourse around it. And so what that means is that during common planning time, when administrators are walking through the building, to make that accountable talk with that shared common language part of the way we do things here. Additionally, the feedback that supervisors give to teachers should be based on those common expectations. So it not only holds teachers accountable, but also lets them be really, really clear what they're being held accountable to do, and also is a way of providing some support so that they can be successful meeting those goals. Bruce, did you want to say anything about the curriculum work that you
I
have
just
been
want to point out a couple of
working on
things
here?
that I think are very sort of positive signs here in Spencer East Brookfield. And I'm going to preface this by saying that there are 3 things that I think everybody who's involved with schools has to appreciate. Number one, we have to improve achievement. For the reasons that Eva just talked about, we know that high school diploma is no longer sufficient as it would have been 20 or 30 years ago to ensure success in life. The second thing we have to appreciate is that improved achievement is only going to come through improved instruction. There simply is no other way. The core of what a school system does is it provides effective instruction. And a key element in that is having a curriculum that reflects all of these standards that are now found in the Common Core, which is what the country is going to use to raise the level of achievement. And that work has already begun here in Spencer East Brookfield. They've partnered with other members of the DSAC group to begin to address that. It is very hard work, and it is time-consuming work, but it is absolutely the necessary first step. And I just want to point out a couple of other things with respect to the slide. And I want to go to create professional discourse. I have a little bit of history in this district in that I worked with a number of teachers at Wire Village over a portion of 2 years, the 2 years preceding this one. There are a number of people, and I also have spent some time at Knox Trail as well. There are a number of very committed teachers in this district. And I think it is important that creating that professional discourse be something that we understand fully, because the teachers here, a number of them can play a very important role in developing this effective curriculum and in becoming understanding, to begin that understanding of what effective instruction is going to look like. We have new standards. As a consequence, the instruction has to change. We have to make sure that we bring everybody to the table for that conversation. The old top-down model is simply not going to do what we need to do to address the kinds of thinking skills and dispositions that are the core of the Common Core. So I would urge you to make sure that you include the teacher voices in this conversation. We've already begun to do that with this excellent curriculum work, and I hope that that can be sustained in the district. Thank you.
The next two recommendations were in the area of assessment, and the first one under that is to so this is really a part of this is really linked to the curriculum and instruction recommendations. So the first one is that the district should build formal data teams at the school level and use representatives of each school data team to serve on a district data team. So there were some, in some schools, there was a de facto school data team, and that really spoke to the initiative that individual schools took and with those teachers. However, to create a more systematic approach, system-wide, to using data effectively to make decisions at all levels, the review team recommended that there were formal and systematized roles and responsibilities for each data team, and really build on the enthusiasm that the review team saw among teachers about using data well to make decisions in order to get them to give some feedback by looking across the district as well as in their individual schools. And the team recommended that the responsibility for organization of these data teams be assigned to one district level administrator. Now, when we look at the whole bandwidth of the administrative team, that's something that I know is a longer conversation, because what we're talking about here in these recommendations, they do take a lot of time and expertise and bandwidth. And so when you're looking at the positions and the structure of the organization right now, those are the kinds of things that definitely should be considered. The next recommendation under assessment, I don't know if you can see it there, might be a bad angle, is that as a part of the curriculum development process described in the above recommendation, Spencer East Brookfield should consider developing or adopting a set of benchmark assessments that are aligned with the curriculum and should support the implementation of frequent formative assessment practices. And so what this really reflected is that teachers need information about how students are progressing before the test 2 to 3 times a year. This is something that they need ongoing. And so without having those formal assessments in, that means teachers are creating their own, they're trying to figure it out among their team, they're looking at unit tests, and that's not always the best source of information to figure out, okay, are my students learning what they need to learn in order to meet the standards that they're going to be tested to on the MCAS test? Now, with the move that the department is making from MCAS to PARC, it's something for districts to really think about in terms of how much do they want to invest in an assessment system and what should they do right now before the board votes on PARC. Because if PARC is right now a pilot test, but if PARC becomes the replacement for MCAS, there will be a set of benchmark assessments that will be offered. But in the meantime, this is something that is really important to figure out because students are going to continue needing to be college and career ready along the way. The next set of recommendations, and this is the last slide with recommendations, are in the areas of student support and human resource and professional development. So the first you see is that the school district should strengthen its tiered system of support to ensure consistent practices across the district and to meet the needs of all students, including those struggling and also those ready for accelerated work. What this speaks to strongly here is that most of the teaching that we saw was teaching to sort of the mainstream, if you will, the general aggregate, like where most kids are, and no child is where most kids are. So what that means is that somebody's needs are always not going to be addressed, and this is where having a tiered system of support fits in. Now, this is easier said than done. It requires that teachers have instructional strategies that are shared. It requires that they're using assessments and they know how to adjust instruction based on the feedback they're getting. But what the review team found is that without a tiered system of instruction being really strong, and there were examples of tiered support in Spencer Brookfield. So I want to say that, and I could speak more to some of those programs and structures that were strong. But without it being consistent and available for all children, that means that there's some children on the lower end that are struggling that might fall through the cracks, and also some children on the upper end that aren't necessarily being pushed as far as they can go. The next recommendation in this area was that the district should make meaningful parent engagement a key priority by continuing and expanding its inclusion of a goal in district and school improvement plans of parent engagement, and by establishing district-wide systems for two-way communication between schools and parents. Now, at the Next Steps meeting that Dr. Jaffoon will talk about more, I participated in the group that really talked about meaningful parent engagement and what this would look like, and got a really clear sense that this is important to everybody, that we know that it's not happening here the way that it should, and that the district should find ways to take responsibility for that. Everybody sort of remarked on how parents come out in droves when it's to support their children in games or play. So how can we create the kinds of structures that will help parents better participate in those academic events as well? In the area of human resource and professional development, just want to say I saved this one to last because one of the things that we talked about in our meeting where we were talking about the report is all of this is really important stuff, but we also need to find ways to build all of our capacity to do all of this work faster and better. I should probably say better more than faster. So can we just say that every district in Massachusetts is having to learn at a really, really fast rate under Race to the Top? All of us, and all of us at the department too. And so we are constantly needing to stay fresh, and it does take an investment of time and energy and professional learning. So there are two parts to this recommendation, so I'm going to start with the one on the bottom here that you probably can't see too well, and that is to plan a systematic approach to professional development that's aligned with the district improvement plan and therefore also aligned with the school improvement plans and is appropriately resourced. The team found that there wasn't enough support for professional development here, both in terms of collaborative planning time, sort of embedded professional development, and in class supports, as well as the external professional development, and that addresses staff needs. With the professional development in place and some clarity about the expectations, the district is in a even better position to implement educator evaluation really effectively. So my understanding is that there has been some progress on the educator evaluation contract language since the review team came out. In order to fully implement this new system, it does take a lot of bandwidth. It takes a lot. Principals, and supervisors are in classrooms all the time doing unannounced classroom observations. They're writing more up. They're responding to new standards. It takes a lot of training for them, and it also takes a lot of training for teachers because every single teacher wants to achieve well on that evaluation. And so you can see how these two things are tied if the district is on the same page. So I know that was a whole lot. Totally get that. And just wanted to say that we know that everything cannot be done at once. And that's where we in the department sort of get to leave after this presentation is over and say, okay, now Dr. Malvey, school committee, principals, central office administrators, teachers, you have the hard work left. And the first piece of the hard work is to identify where to start, those key priorities, since you can't do everything at once, and what kind of support will they be asking from their school committee in making that happen. So we got a little start working together as a team on January the 23rd, and Dr. Jaffoon facilitated that group. And what you see right here are the accelerated improvement plan draft goals that the district already had in place when we came in January. And these were formed after the review. And what the group did was reflect on those goals and began to work on it and added a little language for number 4, right? So I'll leave it up to you, Meg.
Okay. I have to put my glasses on. What we did in the next steps meeting was to take all of this information and say, so now what? Okay, because what you have is, you got Dr. Malvey saying, you've got to get this curriculum in shape. You've got the DSAC saying last year you have to have an accelerated improvement plan. And we don't want to come in then after review and say, oh yeah, and one more thing. So what we tried to do is sort of take these 3 different strands and sort of weave them together. And to say, we use the template of the AIP because it's familiar in the district, and which was already addressing curriculum alignment. We then talked about having data teams and what the steps are. Because what happens when you plan is, it all sounds good, but the actual steps, what takes place this year, what takes place next year, and the year after, sometimes get lost in the shuffle. So our task was to limit the scope and then project it out 3 years, okay? One of the things that we know you're in transition, we know you've had a lot of issues, but you're poised to really come out of this and move forward. And so my job as the facilitator of this meeting was to get you focused so you can move forward. So we took all of that information. We talked about promoting high-quality leadership, including the capacity administration, to support effective instruction. You have to decide in Spencer East Brookfield, what does good instruction look like? What's the expectation? I do reviews, as Ava indicated. When I do them, I do the leadership and governance standard, and I always say, what's the expectations for teaching and learning in whatever district I'm in? And there has to be an immediate response of what it is. And so before you can move forward, you've got to say, well, here's the target. Here's where we're going, okay? Determine protocols for collecting and utilizing observation feedback. The new educator eval system requires a lot of data. What do you do with it? How do you make judgments about it? How do you give actionable feedback that actually improves instruction? That's what this is all headed for. And then we got to the bottom, if you will, and we talked about integrating the AIP, student support, and parent engagement. One of the issues that kept recurring in all the conversations was, but we need help, we need the community. We realize that there have been divisive things that have happened in the two communities. If you use your plan, and this was the strategy that we talked about on the 23rd, using the plan to improve instruction to mobilize support in the communities for the school district, okay? Because it's all about kids. We didn't really talk about what else was going on. We really focused on kids because that's why educators, that's why we come to work every day, okay? So what we did was then take the template, take the work that we had from the morning, put your teachers and administrators' work into the template, and then we gave it back to Dr. Malvey and also gave some feedback and some general comments that they had about the process and how they wanted it to go. I actually get the fun part to do, getting people sort of started on the right track. So as far as the review and as far as the recommendations, you're poised now with what's been determined to be important, how you're going to get there, and a three-year plan that you have the essence of it. You have to fill it out and you have to extend it to the buildings, but you're ready. You're ready to just start moving forward and thinking about kids. So thank you.
Yeah. So as we sort of close out here and open the way, if the chair would like us to take questions, we can. We also know you have a busy agenda, so it might not be the time. Just wanted to close out that when Dr. Malvey invited us to facilitate the Next Steps meeting, we know it was just a start. There's a lot of work that has to be done. A number of people in the audience were here at that meeting. He focused on He made his introductory remarks focusing on three things, and we concluded on it, and they were absolutely the right things. So I just want to reiterate that. One is that Spencer East Brookfield is going to continue moving forward. This is not about sort of a retrospect. We are really looking at, okay, well, what do we need to do now? We know where we are. We know what it takes. Let's do it. The other is a strong focus on the Accelerated Improvement Plan. Keep the priorities in mind and work them. And the third was a focus on teaching and learning above everything else. It's about the curriculum and it's about instruction. Dr. Malvey, you will correct me if I missed one or misstated one, but those were the big takeaways. So I wanted to thank you for inviting us again tonight, and let me know if you would like to entertain questions or continue. All right. Yes, sir.
As you stated earlier, the committee has had the report for some time, and all the members, with the exception of the new member that came on tonight, has probably had ample opportunity to review it and have questions. But before we do, I know it's been a lot of interest with folks in the community, and I wouldn't make it a normal practice to open it up to the public at a meeting, but I would like to take that opportunity tonight. If there's anyone here tonight from the public that would have a question or would like something answered from the folks from DSAC, please feel free to come down or raise your hand, and you'll be recognized to ask a question. Teacher, citizen, what have you, just interested in the kids. If you have any question, feel free to do so. Yes, sir.
My question is, you made all these recommendations. This is an ongoing problem.
Excuse me if I could. Paul, would you just come down, just give your name for the record and use the mic, please.
Paul Fournier, 76 Paxton Road, Spencer. My question has to do with the financial end of making all of this stuff work. Every single school district and every single public school in this through the country is having the same problem of making ends meet. So we've got all these new things that we have to implement. I guess the question is, show me the money. How are we gonna get this done? You've got the town of Shrewsbury, who had one of the top schools, and 3 to 4 years ago was looking for $7.8 million. We're struggling just to make ends meet now. So I guess we're gonna look for a recommendation from you on certainly coffee cake sales, and eye sales aren't gonna get it done. So we're looking for, that's my question. How do we make ends meet?
Okay, thank you, Paul. I guess the main question is, did you bring any money?
Forgot the checkbook. Forgot it.
Yeah. The kind of stress that we just heard is not uncommon, and I do want to recognize that. At the same time, Massachusetts feels like we're doing the right things. We're getting our children to college and career-ready standards. Every single child, no matter how difficult that is. Now, having said that, it's not easy managing the budget. There'll be some really difficult decisions for all of you to make. So what we offer is that we come and we say, listen, from our external perspective, here are the most important things to focus on. And it's a list. And then your leadership has narrowed down to, here are some of the big priorities. And in the meantime, the department provides assistance through, this is a relatively new effort, 4 years old now, the district and school assistance centers, knowing that most districts aren't able to hire the number of people that they need for a number of key pieces of work with respect to assessment and instruction and curriculum support. It's important to note that it's support. It's not the same as having a leadership position. But that's why we had Bruce McDonald come out to represent the District and School Assistance Center that Dr. Malvey has chosen to engage. The last point I would make is that it is a choice of districts whether to use the resources that the department brings to bear. And one thing we found out here is that under Dr. Malvey's leadership, those resources are being used, and that's what we have to offer right now. Here, Bruce, you could say more about the kinds of resources that have been used here.
Again, I'm going to certainly back up what you say. Every place I go, it is the same story. The town where I live, virtually every community in Massachusetts is facing a very difficult budget season. The best that we can do for you is that we can come and try to find ways that are cost effective. So if you think about the curriculum work that's being done, larger, better financed district might be hiring private organizations at considerable cost to come in to assist them with their curriculum, or in some instances they have enough surplus positions in the district that they do it for themselves. We offer that support to you. We will assist you in developing the curriculum. That is provided free. The only cost of the district is the cost of substitute people to go in the classroom so the teachers can be freed up to do this work. And it's the same thing with improving instruction. We all wish we had more resources, but we all know we're not going to get them. So it's a question of, what can we do as a district? And everybody given a little bit. And we all have to realize that the core problem is the achievement of our children, be we citizens, teachers, or whatever. And we do have to come together and we do have to find ways of addressing these problems within the context of the money, because no more money's coming. We all know that. We work very hard with the district to determine how that can happen. We will work with you on improving in instruction, and we have done that. We did some work back at Wire Village last year and the year before that brought teachers together to help them to develop that understanding of effective instruction at very minimal cost to the district. I'm afraid that is the best that we can do. I have nothing more to offer.
Yeah, we are seeing more and more districts make some very difficult choices in terms of deciding to fund the school district at higher rates than in the past. And that's because a lot of this work is critical, it is hitting, and they're looking at the long-term investment.
Thank you. Anyone else from the audience that would have a question? Nobody? Okay, any questions or comments from any of the members of the board? I just have a couple quick things I'd like to ask you about. I did, in reading the report and listening to you tonight, it became even more emphasized the importance of data teams in doing this benchmark testing. You said that you found some evidence that data teams were being used in some areas of the district, but not enough. Is there a number that we're looking for that data tasks should be taken care of and reviewed? And I guess my thought is that where we're getting into trouble sometimes and finding out we're too late with helping a kid because we don't have this data soon enough to look at? Is that the point that you're making?
Yes, that was well stated. Perhaps one of you want to add a little bit more to that, either Dr. Malvey or Bruce, but what we often see in districts that really are doing this work in strong ways are regular assessments, so the kind of assessments that take place every couple of weeks. Teachers are looking at student work and student outcomes together as teams. They're talking about what's going on. They're making decisions about how to shift their instruction. So at least, when I say every 2 weeks, at least every 2 weeks, often weekly. And that can result in student grouping and regrouping. It can result in reteaching. There are different kinds of RTI, response to intervention strategies, that they might implement as a result. And that means that there's not a couple of weeks that goes by before a student can fall behind without being addressed.
Okay, all right. Another point that I recall seeing was a comment that it was felt that perhaps we were teaching more to the middle as opposed to the top, or really challenging and pushing kids. And that was a concern to me. I know we've got some new programs, like the virtual high school program is back on track and stuff. What other type programs would you recommend for those advanced students that we can challenge a little better than what we're doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. And there were quite a few support programs that attempted to address some of those issues. So we didn't get a chance to go into detail about what that looks like here, where it's working well. But as far as looking at ways that other districts approach this that are cost-effective, that would be something that the district and school assistance centers would be better positioned to do, because the last thing I'd want to do is to bring up a one-size-fits-all kind of model, not knowing what would really work with respect to what's already in place.
I guess the quick answer is, if you talk about a RTI model, or as it's called in Massachusetts, the Massachusetts System of Tiered Support, the first place that you look to address both of those things is in the main classroom, with basic classroom instruction. So you would work with teachers, and how do we provide the kinds of activities that students could tap into at different levels? Now, clearly, there's a basic level of education, phonics, basic memorization of facts that everybody has to do. But beyond that, are you looking at the kinds of tasks that you could modify, or you could in some way differentiate for students who are struggling, while at the same time providing at the other end for students who are capable of more advanced work? This is not easily done. We've seen some good examples of how this happens. But that piece is really, again, it goes back to that core instruction issue. And looking at what goes on in the classroom, because one of the things that you want to do is you want to deal with as many of the instructional issues as you can in the regular classroom without having to rely on supports for either remediation or enrichment. Because there's a limit to your financial situation, how many of those you could support to begin with. So that would be the place that we would start.
Okay. Right. Would the data teams, once they're established, would they give some direction to the tiered systems that you put in? Is that, so that's kind of the steering wheel of the whole?
They're all connected.
They're all okay.
Right. I think that the leadership, having keep pieces and people in place to organize all of that, would also be the sort of the big first step, according to the recommendations in this report.
Okay. And my last question is in regards to professional development.
Mm-hmm.
When Dr. Malby took over, he's more or less taken charge of curriculum development and overseeing professional development. Are you familiar with any of the professional development that has been done since Dr. Malby has come on board? And if so, what's your take on it? Are we up to speed? Are we doing what we should be doing with professional development at this stage?
Yes, so our office's last interaction in depth was in June, so you can speak more to that, Bruce, about the work that you've engaged with here, the kind of PD.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the curriculum work, because that is a form of professional development. Again, curriculum, instruction, assessment, these are really sort of, three parts of the same wheel, of the same triangle. So I would say that the curriculum work and getting teachers or bringing teachers to an understanding of what is required under the new standards through the development of curriculum and the sort of what is it you're going to do, and then the next step being the how, that all sort of follows sequentially. So from what I know at this point, the district is addressing that. I'm unaware of additional things that are coming in from possibly from other sources other than DSAC, but that would be the work from our perspective.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. Dr. Martin?
If I could just add to that, I want the community to understand that if we did not have the transition from the accountability report and the Accountability Center to the Assistance Center of the Department of Education, it would be a much steeper hill for us to climb. But in that, we are now receiving the support of the Assistance Center portion of the department. We're addressing a lot of the issues that were identified in the report, but specifically to pick up on what Bruce has mentioned, back in the summer, as I explained to the committee on multiple occasions, we jumped in very, very quickly on what's called curriculum mapping, and that was through the sponsorship of the Department of Education. We couldn't have involved ourselves in those activities because of the cost and the availability of personnel to reach out to people unless we had the Assistance Center. So it was timely and appropriate given what the report had to say. We have three individuals here this evening, all working very, very closely with us. That's time and money for these folks to be here this evening, for the other days that they have come out here to the district as well. And there are three individuals that are not present here this evening that are working very closely with us, Tom LeMay, Kate, and Tracy. Individuals that are providing training to us through professional development activities relative to the curriculum. And as we do further work on this accelerated improvement plan, the goal for this year here is to develop our maps, which are curriculum maps. It's a blueprint. It's a set of procedures, directions. It covers content and process. It covers evaluation. It covers data. Our goal this year here is to fast forward that, to pull it together pre-K to grade 8 in ELA, English Language Arts, and Mathematics. We wouldn't be able to do that, and I'm not claiming victory yet, but we wouldn't even be able to address that if we did not have the help of the Assistance Center from the get-go, and we will continue with that work. The regional area director that we report to for the Assistance Center is Dr. Joe Connors. And Joe has been out multiple occasions. He's coming out at the end of this month to do the further work from what Ava had put up on the next steps of where do we go, what is the next step now that we should be involved in. And Dr. Connors will be out working with us to plan future professional development. We've also put together some grants, and I think it was about $11,500 that we're going forward to request financial assistance from the department. And if we're successful with that, we take another step up that ladder. So it's going to be a while, but we're moving forward slowly but surely. Some people will look at it as, gee, this is not pretty work. It's not exciting. It's not really, the thing to get my blood pumping. Yet other people will trip over themselves to get to it. So as we work that through, I hope when we reach June, we'll be in a better position to say, well, we didn't accomplish everything, but we're further down the road than where we were back in June of 13, and then start to develop the plans. The district district improvement plan, the school improvement plans to lead into year 2, year 3, et cetera, et cetera. So I welcome and I appreciate the help from the center. I hope it continues.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Yes, go ahead. Yeah. Just speak up, I think.
I didn't hear anything about any type of facilities or technology. Is that something that you guys delved into, or is this strictly just curriculum and education?
So the review looks at a range of indicators. There are 25 indicators that we look at under these 6 standards. And one of them is looking at the facilities. So the challenge is that the review team has the responsibility to narrow down what is most important in terms of strengths and challenges to mention in the report. We don't allow them to talk about everything because it's already quite more recommendations than any district can implement at one time. And so none of the findings about the facilities rose to the level of a finding in this particular report. There was some mention of technology in terms of the instructional practices and in terms of the assessment, the capability of teachers and school and district using data with respect to technology. But that's in the detail of the report. There wasn't a big finding on it, but it was addressed in terms of it being a fundamental aspect of full implementation of effective instructional practices and use of assessments. There was some mention of classroom resources, not workbooks. The need for more resources in the classroom.
What you have to do is you have to start with what are the outcomes you want. And from there you work backwards. Now I get to go to a lot of schools and a lot of school districts, and frankly, I have yet to see solid evidence that technology is in any way the key to advancing what kids need to know. I'm being quite honest with you. Particularly if you are in strained resources, you do not look at technology as your first resource. What your first thing that you have to look at is the effectiveness of the classroom instruction. The absence of up-to-date books, that's a problem. And there may be a technological solution to that, I don't know. But the idea that magically just putting a computer in a classroom is going to change everything for kids is, at this point, basically unfounded. And so I would say you think long and hard about putting money there before you looked at putting it at other places. That's as much a professional opinion, not necessarily the departments or anything.
Well, that's different than what we normally.
I know, but I have to say, if you want to, I'm just going to throw this out really quickly. I don't want to get a discussion of this, but if you look at one of the highest achieving nations in the world, it's Finland. There is not one computer in any school in Finland, and yet they managed to do an excellent job of their students for roughly the same amount of money that America spends. So again, what are the outcomes you want? And then within your resources, how are you going to get them? There are no magic bullets, technologically speaking or anything else. This is going to be a long, hard slog. But again, the first step is, what has it got to look like for kids leaving this school system at the end of 12th grade? What do they have to have? Then we work backwards and figure out within the context of your resources, how can we best get that?
To just be a little bit more concrete, because I see I didn't really answer the question, now that I understand it. In the ninth finding of the report about instruction, the team found, this is on page 21, that the current instructional technology resources are outdated or limited. And found that, and underneath that, the report talked about the elimination of the technology director position, and that teachers and administrators noted that technology was sparsely integrated into the curriculum because of the resources. And the parents also pointed out that that technology access across the district needed upgrading and improving, especially so they could take advantage of Power School. And the team did not see a great deal of technology being used in the classroom. So it is a difficult question for districts. And Spencer East Brookfield does spend less on pupils than the median for districts of similar size. And so we're working with a smaller amount of money. I think the most pressing thing that the district is going to face is whether or not they are technologically ready for park administration, because that's going to require every student to be on the computer for administration. And should the park pilot become finalized, then all of the tools that are for free available on park and with the teaching and learning system will not be available for teachers.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, and on behalf of the committee and the parents and the students of the district, we thank you for your efforts in helping us.
And thank you for this opportunity and your openness to receive the report. We know it's not an easy conversation, but it was one that everyone just grabbed right onto, and we applaud and appreciate your contribution and allowing us to be part of this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, the next item on our agenda is the FY14 budget update. Dr. Malvey?
I'm going to defer to Julie on that. I think it's the budget report.
That was part of the financial report.
Yeah, and do that for the transfer piece, if you could comment on that.
Okay, they already
From
voted.
the new adjustment that we had to make. What we're getting at is that, if you recall from the last meeting, we had identified for the committee that we had an additional setback relative to a change in the state aid that we were expecting under the school choice and the charter, to the tune of $169,000, that we had to go back and find further areas of where to reduce the budget in order to balance that. We're prepared this evening. Julie will cover it, and based on the committee's action, then that will go forward to the Commissioner of Education for his approval or non-approval of what our actions are.
So I guess at this point, if the committee members would refer to the transfer sheets.
Yes, so this was already voted on earlier tonight, so, I mean, we can go over it again, but, so to get to the 169,000, we took another 34,900 from computer supplies, $33,000 from mass out-of-district tuitions. We had a student move out of district. 30,000 from unemployment. That's kind of a moving number. As we laid so many people off last year, we kind of had to keep that up, but now we found that the majority of people that we have laid off have found jobs, so that number, we can now take that as a savings. $25,000 from a technology position that we have yet to fill. 20,000 from special ed contracted services that we've yet to spend. $10,000 from savings for the trash bid that we just recently did. $5,763 from savings from the health insurance stipend for employees that are no longer eligible. $5,337 from money that had been budgeted for a teacher that was retiring. That was going to be her sick leave buyback, and she's no longer retiring, so she's no longer eligible in this year. And then $5,000 from health insurance savings that we are seeing now as we get closer to the end of the year. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions for any members? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Julie. The next item is the report on the high school CPR course. Mr. O'Brien?
Mr. O'Brien is here. He must have stepped out for a moment. I hope you've had the opportunity to read through what Mr. O'Brien was able to uncover relative to the issue that was brought to the committee's attention at the last meeting. If Bob steps back in, if you have any questions, we can address that. But I have reviewed it with him, and I asked for some additional information, which he did go back and provide. I think the bottom line in it is that there is an explanation of what had happened and what steps will be taken to avoid that in the future, not only in this particular discipline, but for commentary made to the entire staff so that we don't have similar occurrences. So unless there are anything specific issues there, I believe it's been addressed, and he also has met with the parent and the teacher involved as well to try to clarify the situation and move forward from that.
Okay, any questions from any members in regards to that?
Chairman,
Mr. Nordquist?
I just wanted to ask, I was going to ask Mr. O'Brien, but maybe Dr. Melvey, it says in the front page, lessons and topics, and it goes into a second page, and there's all kinds of topics. Is the Red Cross going to give us the paperwork or these lessons to be used in the classroom, or do we have them in service now? All these lessons from...
I believe so, Kurt, from the curriculum that's been provided from the Red Cross folks.
So the Red Cross is going to come in?
No, they're not going to do it. They provide the material and the curriculum for us, and then we can adapt and adopt it any which way we think is appropriate for our students. But this is the outline of it, of what is available. And I can't attest to the fact that everything is covered A to Z, and if Bob steps back, we can pose that. But this is in lieu of the district, having to write its own program, so to speak.
And this is going to start in the next class, or in the next fall class, or immediately?
I'm not sure how it runs.
I think Mr. Bayshon has gone out to see if he can grab Mr. O'Brien.
Okay, we'll see if we can get that.
In the meantime, while we're waiting for him to come, the next item, we'll just cover a few quick ones here. Mass Association of School Committees, Glenn Kuchar, is going to be here on February 17th. It's a Monday from 10 to 12 at Wire Village for training of school committee members. This was originally set up for Mr. Cloutier and myself because we hadn't participated in that training. The DSAC report had suggested that it be opened up to all members, even those that had previously taken it, if they wanted to take it. Heather is new on the board tonight, so it's certainly open to you if you'd like to come. I do need a head count tonight, so is there anyone else? Perhaps I'll just go right down the line. Mrs. Gershman, any interest?
I am not available, no.
You've taken it already?
I have taken it already, yes.
Mr. King?
I've taken it already.
Josh?
I've taken it, and I'm not available. I have to...
Okay. So I guess it would be you'll come, Heather, will be the four of us. Correct?
I'll be going.
Okay, all right. All right, so if we can notify Glenn Kuchar that it'll be four people. Mr. Bayshine, is Mr. O'Brien available to come back, or? I don't know where he is. You don't say, okay. All right, well then.
Could Mr. Bayshine answer the question?
Oh, here he is.
Oh, here he comes.
Bob, if you come to the mic, there's just a couple of questions in regards to the report on CPR.
Sure.
Correct?
On that page where it has all these lessons, I think Dr. Murray says that you already have all this paperwork, all this instructionals right now.
Yes, that's part of the curriculum that's in place at this time.
And is it going to start right away? Is it going to start in the fall semester? This extra class instructions? The pages here.
That is already what is being instructed at this time, and there'll be more work put in the class before it's up running again.
So that's going to start right away at the next class, or is it going to start in the fall when the new school starts?
There's not a class scheduled for this semester.
Okay.
So if it's in the fall.
Okay.
But as long as it has the integrity of what a class needs at David Prouty High School.
Okay, that's what my questions were. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else? So you all set? Mr. Cludier?
Chairman, so my question, I guess, in follow-up to that, because I'm not sure, are we going to be teaching this come fall, or is that undecided at this point?
That's undecided, depends on the course of study and the budget, and all that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Next item in your packet is school calendar. Mr. Superintendent, any comment on that?
Well, this has been prepared in the office, and it's pretty standard for year in, year out. It's consistent with other districts. I'd like to, when I come forward with the calendar, put it out as a draft to see if there are any comments, reactions from not only the committee, but if folks, parents, staff, et cetera, and then we can bring it back at a follow-up meeting for approval or adjustments. It's good that we get it done early enough in the year so that as people start to look next year, they can make their plans. So that would be my recommendation, that you take it under review and we bring it back at the next meeting.
Okay. And certainly, if any members have any comments in regards to the calendar, you should probably contact Dr. Melby and express your concerns to him in regards to it. The next item on the agenda will be the FY15 budget. The procedure that we're following for the FY15 budget is this. Under our district policies, the superintendent of schools is actually the budget officer, and it's his responsibility to come forward with the initial budget, and he's going to do that tonight and make a presentation along with the business manager to us. We have the budgets in place before us now. It's my intention to have the committee take these under your own advisement, go through them yourself, and come back in 2 weeks when we are going to start the process of going through the budget with the principals and vice principals, special ed, and then district-wide altogether. So tonight we'll have a slide presentation of the first bite at looking at the budget. Certainly we'll take any questions from any members that might have some on that slide tonight, but more importantly is to take the budget back yourself in the next 2 weeks and come back on the next meeting prepared. We will have the high school and the junior high school will be in before us, and at that time, we'll go through each school line by line with the principals here. So if we would take a seat down here so we don't block.
If the committee would, just before you go, if I could just kind of give the broad overview on it, and then Julie's going to go through a few slides. Some of the material that we initially gave you was the budget in total, with great detail in terms of the line items. We're not going through that this evening. I think we'd be here till breakfast. But as Kevin said, the intent is then to bring it forward by the various locations, and hopefully we can get some additional dates scheduled this evening. But in essence, so that folks understand where we're heading, we have prepared what we call a level service budget, and basically that's the way we exist right now. So we roll that forward to next year, bring in some costs that we know would impact the budget, and any new items, if you will, or any true new educational requests from the administrators, we've held off from the level service budget. But the figure that we're going to be working from is set at $24,096,795. That's $24,096,795. That's what we call a level service budget. And within that, Julie will be reviewing a number of areas of what cuts had to be made on the FY14 budget. Some of them, if not all of them, will not survive being brought back, if you will. But in addition to that, there will be some requests that I did give the green light to the administrators and ask them if there were items that either were eliminated, reduced from this year, or things that you would like to put in place, put that in as a request, and that's going to be a separate total. It's not in the level service, but Julie will review that. We've also given an impact of areas that will have an impact on the budget, negatively speaking, and that is on the revenue side. In some instances, we may be losing revenue. Other areas that drive the budget increases, that's going to have a negative impact on the budget that we have to adjust for. That will be in the level service budget. And then potential reductions in grants. and Julie will cover that in greater detail, but many of the grants we receive fund positions outright. And if we lose those grants, we're in a difficult position, but it doesn't necessarily have an impact on the budget itself, the operating budget. Yet there are other grants that we do fund positions within the operational budget, and if we have those either eliminated or reduced, it's going to have a serious impact because we rely on that money within the budget proper, if you will, to fund a number of positions. So we'll identify that for you as well. And last but not least, we do have a separate section on technology needs. Whether it's been adequately identified in the DSAC report or not, we'll be able to deal with that in greater depth on a specific evening, but I did authorize putting in to let people know that we're really operating in a horse and buggy stage, if you will, with the technology that we have. Across the district, we have a number of units, if you will, or pieces of equipment, but they're very, very outdated. We're also working off of 2 systems, I'm told, that they're not integrated with each other. And last but not least, where everyone in a school district and probably even in your own homes have bought into what's called XP operating system, well, that's going out of business in April and isn't going to be further supported. So we're going to be up a tree, as in many school districts, so we've put a piece of that in there as well. You heard Ava Mitchell mention PARC, and for those of you that don't know really what that means, it's a fancy name for a new assessment system that the state is going to, potentially to replace the MCAS test. And if we do go to that at the state level, it requires a higher capacity level on everyone's technology. We couldn't implement that with what we have right now. So whether the state steps up to the plate eventually and says, well, we've got to slow down a little bit, or we've got to provide some upfront funding to school districts, if it's left on our shoulders, unless folks are willing to, put this in as a capital request, we're going to get further and further behind. But we'll bring that forward on a separate night. But we did put it in there so that we could bring people's attention to it. Okay? Thank you. No. She should have given it to Blaine. Sure. Okay, do you want to take this? I'll take this, yeah.
All right, we'll just start by looking at the historical budgets and kind of where we've been and where we're looking. So like Dr. Melvey said, the level services budget would be $24,096,795, or an increase of $645,000. So basically, this includes just what we have now. It did take a look at anywhere we could save money and took the savings that we could take, but otherwise kept everything the same as it is now. Just take a look back at what we cut this year to get to this budget. All of these things are still out. The Director of Teaching and Learning, the Facilities Manager, the Wire Village Dean of Students, 7 elementary teachers, 5 junior high teachers, 4 high school teachers, a preschool teacher, 1.5 special education teachers, 1 psychologist, the elementary band, the guidance secretary. We closed Maple Street. That included laying off a nurse and a secretary. We've cut $124,000 of supplies and services and another $35,000 of computer supplies tonight to cover the school choice. In a level services budget, you do have some things that will increase. Here, a look at the things that are going to negatively impact our budget. The loss of school choice and grant revenue, like Dr. Melvey said, which I'll go into more detail. Our health insurance will go up. Worst case at this point, $252,000. That's still being reviewed, and we still need to talk about further. So that's basically the worst case that we could probably end up with. We also had some teachers and other employees that were hired after the start of the year. When the state set the budget, we took those savings as reductions. Now we need to put those employees back in at their full salary for the full year. That's going to cost us about $100,000 for those 6 employees. Anticipating building heat, probably going about $27,200. Special ed transportation, about $55,000. And then regular ed transportation, $51,616. Although we'll take a vote later and we may be able to reduce that by about half. So we can talk about that when we do the vote after. Here's a look at the grants that actually cover critical employees that we would need, like classroom teachers. We do have other grants like Title I and the Literacy Grant. If we lose those grants, we lose those services. In this case, these are paying for teachers that are in classrooms that we actually really do need. We couldn't survive without. So it shows you what FY13 versus 14. You can see overall we lost about 13% from FY13 to 14. So we're anticipating about another 200,000 next year. We will probably lose. Most of those things we won't actually find out about until we're into the school year. September, October is when they actually finalize those grants. So we have to just be conservative and use our best estimates. Here's a look at what the budget summary is and how it's broken out. You see the $645,000 increase. Basically, all of these different line items are explained by the previous sheet of the increases of the grants and the health insurance and all of that. Then you can see some things we've saved on, the debt and the stabilization/contingency. We'll go into more detail next week of all of these and how it works out. We're just going to take a little bit of a look of what the schools have requested over level services. So East Brookfield is looking for 2 additional paraprofessionals, $1,500 more for workbooks, $400 more for library books and supplies, which basically has been eliminated in all of the schools. So a lot of the schools are looking to get some of that back. $5,000 in teacher supplies, and $20,000 for an HVAC computer. The HVAC computer, I guess, has been having some ongoing issues, so now they've been manually doing everything. They think it would be savings for the computer system to be upgraded and back to working the way it should. So, but they're estimating it's about $20,000 to upgrade that. Lake Street, they're looking for additional clerical hours that were reduced during the cuts. $4,000 in workbooks. Again, they're looking for library books and supplies. And about $10,000 for handicap accessible issues that they're having at the school. Wire Village, looking to reinstate an assistant principal. Again, additional clerical time that had been reduced previously. An additional paraprofessional. $9,000 for workbooks. This year at Wire Village didn't get to spend any money on workbooks, so they're looking to reinstate money for workbooks, and $7,000 more for teacher supplies. Knox Trail, again, looking to reinstate their clerical time. They would like to institute team leaders at the middle school or junior high. $2,500 more for workbooks, $1,000 more for library books and supplies, and then $4,000 to bring back a conflict mediation program that had previously been in the district. I believe Joyce can probably talk to you more about next week when she does her presentation. The high school, again, they're looking for more summer clerical time. $7,500 to bring back the virtual high school, which they currently have, but limited licenses to get it to where they'd like to be. We would need to add more money for that. $1,000 for library books, $19,000 for athletic expenses that were reduced this year, $30,000 for new exterior doors. They've replaced, I believe, the outside front doors, but there's still other doors in the school that need to be replaced. And then $7,500 to patch the roof, which is leaking. Pupil services, looking for an additional special ed teacher at Wire Village. And then Karen will probably go into this in more detail, and she had talked about this previously during the budget process last year, but just create a new program to try to keep students in district. It would require a school adjustment counselor, a new special ed teacher at the high school at Knox Trail, and a paraprofessional at the high school in Knox Trail. And then, like Dr. Malvey said, here's a look at what technology needs really are. The $150,000 to, as he said, we're running on 2 networks. There's some projects in that and some other projects that need to be upgraded for the system. And then for the XP issue, of the computers we have, a very small percentage can actually be upgraded to go into the new operating system. The ones that can't be upgraded would need to be replaced. if we really look at how many computers there are, the replacement cost would be $332,000. And then replacement of servers and switches to keep our network up and running. I don't know if Dr. Melby wants to talk any further about technology, or those are the requests. Does anyone have any question? Okay.
At this point, is there any questions from any members on just the brief overview? If there are, we'll entertain those now. Is there any questions in what you just saw as an overview? Mary?
One of the questions that I did have, as far as the handicap accessible that needs improvement on Lake Street, are those going to be state mandated improvements that have to be done regardless? I mean, you would think if it's in regards with handicap accessible, then.
I'd have to defer to Debbie on it, but my understanding is that there's, I don't think it would be mandated per se. We have, the building is accessible, but it is, if anyone knows Maple Street School, I'm sorry, Lake Street. Lake Street, it's certainly not up to modern standards, if you will. For example, we have an ongoing issue with the elevator there. On a good day, it works. On a good day, it doesn't work within the same hour. We've had constant repair people out to service it. We have accessibility into the building, but we have a parking issue relative to a drop-off for youngsters that may need, wheelchair accessibility. And I believe we have an issue in one of the rooms, the art room, is it, Debbie? Of now, as a child moves through, we may need access to that if we were to keep the room in the same spot, which is the art room, that it would require a ramp. And then if we get into that, we have to make sure that it's possible to be done by code in that particular room, or do we have to do something else? I think the intent is to try to be proactive, given an old building, if you will, but there may become a break point of how many upgrades can you put into a facility like that before we either shift the population or if we're able to, look to close down a facility and redistribute students and our programs elsewhere in the district. If that happens, youngsters could be crossing lines quite frequently, and I know that was an issue back when you started to deliberate on the FY14 budget. So right now, we're not being pushed by the state, but I could see that coming if we're not able to accommodate as youngsters move through our district. And in one fell swoop, where we think we're being proactive, we could be directed to do these adjustments.
Thank you.
Well said, Mary.
Yes, thank you.
Dr. Melby, was there any, at one time, I think Selectman Woodbury had mentioned there may be some funds available through a handicap commission that he's on. Did any of that ever materialize, or is it still a possibility?
I haven't officially approached him in writing on that, but I will.
Okay, all right.
We're dealing with, when I mentioned that issue relative to the parking and the side entrance, we're dealing with an issue that we're getting by. I don't think it's to anyone's 100% satisfaction, but we're making it work. What I'd like to be able to do is in the springtime, there's a section, if you can visualize Lake Street School, as you go up the side driveway, there's a turnaround. There's a couple sheds up there, but if we can do a curb cut and get a spot there, we'd be better off by having youngsters, exit and enter into vehicles and into the building from there. So we'll take a look at that as well. And that's where I intend to approach to see if we can get some financial assistance.
Okay. Any other questions in regards to the overview from any members? Josh?
As far as specific questions on this, we're going to meet on each individual school?
Yep.
Okay. then overall, when are we going to be meeting, and how long do we have to get this done? When does this have to be sent to the towns?
We're going to have this back to the town on the 17th of March.
Of March, okay.
And it's the intention of the chair, you're going to have your budget tonight to review. You can contact Dr. Malvey individually or Julie with any questions, and then come in for the 24th for a school committee meeting here, in which the high school and the junior high will be here, and we'll go through their budget. And if there was no objections by too many folks, I would like to start at 6 instead of 7 o'clock.
Be fine.
It's the 25th.
That would be the 24th. The 25th is a regular school committee meeting. This is another meeting that will be strictly for the budget with the high school and the junior high. Then on the 25th, excuse me, we have our regular school committee meeting, and on that night, all of the elementary principals will be coming in, and we'll go through theirs line by line. And then on the 26th, special ed and district will come in, and we'll go through their budget line by line. And then that will complete the process of us being able to have our input, get our oar in the water on all budgets across the district. And then we will have our next monthly meeting will be on March 6th, and at that time, we'll be looking to adopt the budget. And then we'll have a public hearing, and it will be down to the town administrator for the 17th. So that's the schedule that we're looking at. We're going to have 1 week where we will be busy with 3 meetings, but that's the cards that are being dealt, and that's the schedule we're going to have to go through. I'm trying to give everybody enough warning so that you've got a couple weeks to make adjustments to your schedule to be able to get this done.
And that's 6 PM every night?
Yes.
6,
Yeah. And here, yeah. And we'll stay as long as we have to, but I think if we all individually do our work and come in prepared with our questions and stuff, we should be able to go through the process quite smoothly. So that's it in regards to the budget and the schedule that we'll be following. If there's no other questions in regards to that, the next item on the agenda is the Suffolk County Educational Collaborative Annual Report. That's basically just an informational piece for us. If you have any questions specifically, you'd have to address them to Dr. Malvey, in which he'll have to get answers from the folks that are in charge of that, but it's just sent to us on a yearly basis as an informational piece. No questions on that one? I'm sorry, Benny?
Yeah, through you to Dr. Malvey. Last year, I had requested that we received the audit as a form of information, but we didn't receive the management letter that went along with the audit. And again, this year, I was looking at it, and they ran in the deficit. I went through the report. I would like to see if there's an attached management letter that we could have access to.
On the collaborative piece?
On the collaborative.
Sure. I'll check with the director there.
Does that require a vote, Mr. Malvey, or?
No, that'd be fine. I can do that. Informational.
All right. Okay, anybody else on that? No? Next item is AA Transportation. Superintendent had informed us at the last meeting. Julie had done some work on this, and she's put together a package with our current carrier. Judy, if you want to, Julie, want to just quickly talk about that, and we'll take a vote.
Okay. We're finishing our 3rd year of our contract, which had an optional year 4 and 5. So they're now looking to see if we want to extend that. They've offered us better prices than were in the initial bid. They give the option of we can do a 1-year extension with a 7% increase, or if we want to take our 2 optional years, they do 4% for this year and then 7% for next year, which based on the different rates from the other schools that I've seen, they seem to be pretty good prices.
I think it's the business manager's position that it would be advantageous for us to vote to go with the 2-year option. So is there such a motion?
The motion, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we go with Plan B, 2-year extension as read.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I would just add for the committee's review that in checking, Julie did checking with a number of other districts, they're looking at double-digit increases, so I think this is a good business move for us. If we went out on the market, I doubt that we would get this because what's happening is much, much higher. So I think this is in our best interest. We recommend it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? So voted. The next item in your packet is personnel information. Any questions in regards to personnel coming, going, or changes?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I had one question. I'm not sure, I don't know any of the folks, so I can't answer my own question, but there was a maternity leave at Proudy for an English teacher, and then I saw an appointment up above for a substitute English teacher for maternity leave, and it stated Knox Trail. Are those two different positions, or is that just at the wrong place? Okay, so it is two different positions. Okay, all right, so that was my question. Thank you. That was the only question I had.
Okay. No one else? All right, moving on. The next item in your agenda was the enrollments. Any comments in regards to the trend on enrollments? Okay, hearing none. The next issue is school newsletters. You all received the newsletters in your packet, and you had the Wye Village one as well, or East Brookfield, I forget which one came, Wye Village. Any comments in regards to those? Kurt?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say that the school newsletters get more colorful and get more informative of what's going on. I think that's a great thing as a school committee member. So I want to say thank you to the principals.
Okay, thank you, Kurt. Next item, hearing for visitors. Any visitors that want to be recognized? Gary?
Yeah, just to let you know about the Lake Street, I talked to both Dr. Malby and Deb a while ago on that building because it is town-owned. We do have a right to spend money in that building through the Disability Commission. What I was told that elevator hasn't been inspected. They were having trouble getting an inspector there. At that point, I offered to get an inspector there because they were waiting. So that's the last conversation, other than Dr. Malby came up with a solution, maybe making a ramp up back, but because of the time of year, obviously, you can't put any asphalt down. So, but I'd be happy to do what I can, other than if they're waiting for an inspector, not a problem. That's a phone call. So.
Well, just as a follow-up for that with Gary, I appreciate that when he contacted me, but we have had it inspected, and right now we're on a renewed temporary 90-day permit, if you will, because there was some additional work when the inspector came out, and we no sooner had that fixed than it went on the blink again on us, so we had to have him come out 2 more times. So we're okay right now moving forward, waiting for the permanent, the long-term permit, if you will, from the inspection, but we're good to go right now, and hopefully that piece of equipment will continue to operate, but I will follow up with you relative to...
Let me know, because I have the contacts. I can get that done in no time. So.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, next item on the agenda, school committee comments. Future agenda top? Oh, are there any other visitors that would like to be heard? Okay, seeing none. Next item, school committee comments, agenda topics that any members want on.
Mr. Chairman.
Kurt?
I got some calls, and I'd like to refer you this to Mrs. Sablocki, Lake Street. I happened to receive some calls for some veterans. I don't know if they live nearby or go by, but they had a comment about the flag flying 7 days a week, night and day. I drove by the other schools, and the high school and this school here has lights, so I guess they're covered for flying at night. But I checked Knox Trail, and on the weekend there was no flag in East Brookfield. So if Mrs. Sablocki would want to check into that or give us a comment of, how come it's flying 24 hours a day.
Mr. Miller has, I've spoken with him. He said there's something that was broken on the flagpole. I spoke with him again last week. And I believe you talked to Mr. Messier, and he was supposed to be looking into it.
Okay, thank you. I'll pass the comment along, thank you.
Anybody else, school committee comments? See, now, the only thing that I have that I'll add is, just so that you can put it in your calendar, in March, our meeting, I think you've already been notified, will be on March 6th, and the second one is March 25th. And then going into April, our first regular scheduled meeting will be on April 15th. And then at that time, we'll go further with setting further meetings out from that point forward.
Can I just clarify one thing? Is our public hearing on the 6th, just so we know we can get it posted for the 2 weeks' notice and everything?
There is a public hearing. I'm not sure what date, the initial one I had received was on Friday, so I knew that was incorrect, but I don't, have you set a date yet, Dr. Malvey, for the public hearing, or are we still working that out?
No, we'll still work that out.
All right.
You're talking about the budget?
Yeah.
No, yeah, we'll still work that out.
Notice, though, so if we're adopting the 6th, either up to that or before that. That's what you said. I'm not sure if I heard you correctly. But-
Okay, we'll let Dr. Malvey work that out, and if we have to move that,
Right, I would suggest, because I've done it in a number of districts, you can do your public hearing the same evening as you adopt.
oh, okay, all right.
That happens quite frequently. We'll go through that, and then even if you have to make any adjustments, you can still do that.
Okay, all right.
So do we want to plan on that day, because we need to do 2 weeks' notice in the paper for that.
What Julie's saying is that we have a legal requirement to post it in the paper 2 weeks in advance of the public hearing.
Yes.
Okay, you take care of that.
We will, but are you concerned,
Are we definitely doing it?
we're okay with the time?
If we want to, I'm just making sure that confirming that the 6th
Yeah,
is the date.
then we'll take care of it in the office.
Okay.
Okay?
all right. And the only other meeting is in regards to the negotiation team, and we do have a letter going out. We're looking to meet on the 25th, which is our next regular scheduled meeting. That's for Chris, myself, and Vinnie, and that would be at 5 o'clock in the superintendent's office, and it would be meeting prior to our regular scheduled meeting. And we're waiting for confirmation from the Teachers Association.
Mr. Chairman, that
Yes.
night on the 25th, is our regular meeting starting at 6? Or are we starting at our normal time of 7 for that meeting on the 25th?
We won't know until we get confirmation back from the association,
Okay.
whether it's going to be a go or not. So I'll have Martha update everybody.
Okay.
I would also ask, Mr. Chairman, that if we do go on the 25th there, that we're not going to be able to house the number of people in the superintendent's office.
Well, that would just be for the negotiation meeting, and then we'd be going to...
But just for the school committee team, or the school committee and the Teachers Association?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, because they're going to have
Library?
10, 12 people, I think, yeah.
High school library? Okay.
Or even a meeting room here, because we're going to have a meeting here
Yeah,
afterwards.
is there a meeting room here that we...
Yes, we can arrange something here.
It'd probably be
Okay.
easier.
Okay. Okay, does anybody else have anything? If not, at this point, we're going to go into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining of litigation, position of the public body, and the chair so declares. On a roll call vote, Kurt?
Aye.
Heather?
Aye.
Vinnie?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Josh?
Aye.
And Mary?
Aye.